Thank you. Just been reviewing what's been presented here week by week, and I don't think we've done anything in the area of astronomy for a while. So that's where I thought we'd go this morning, hence the title of our creation moment, Uranus, or Uranus, the strange planet. And we start with a opening scripture in Genesis 1:16, which reads, "And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also." Unusual in many ways, Uranus and its moons pose big problems for evolutionary theories of planet formation and can be seen as an exciting testament to the Creator. Bluish green and big, B-I-G, about 64 times the size of the Earth, Uranus is the seventh from the Sun of the 9 known planets in our solar system. At 19 times the distance from the Sun to the Earth, Uranus is so far away that it takes 84 Earth years to orbit the Sun just once. Barely visible to the naked eye, Uranus wasn't discovered until 1781, when famed British astronomer William Herschel, a Christian, noted an uncharted bright object traversing an area of sky he was studying. Much of our information about Uranus and its moons was obtained from the Voyager 2 spacecraft when it flew by the planet in January 1986. Even before Voyager 2, scientists knew that some of Uranus's characteristics caused problems for naturalistic theories. By 1948, it was known that Uranus had at least 5 moons, but their orbits were not at all what that had been expected. The moon's orbits were discovered to be perpendicular to the ecliptic, which is the plane in which most of the planets orbit the Sun. This meant that either the moons were orbiting Uranus around its poles instead of its equator, or else the rotational axis of Uranus itself was inclined way over compared to other planets. The latter, the fact that it was on its side, turned out to be the case. Uranus's equator is at 98 degrees to the ecliptic, which is the Earth's axis being tilted at an angle of approximately 23.5 degrees relative to the plane of the Earth's orbit around the Sun. So instead of spinning like a top as it orbits the Sun, as the other planets do, Uranus rolls along its side. This situation is impossible according to evolutionary ideas about the formation of the solar system, namely that planets condense from a rotating nebula. Uranus cannot have formed this way naturally. What then is the evolutionary solution? Most of them believe that Uranus did actually form the correct way, that is, according to evolution, but then was subsequently knocked over during a collision with another planet, supposedly the size of the Earth. Indeed, models for the development of the solar system cannot produce such an orientation without invoking with another object. So how feasible is this explanation? First of all, Uranus's orbit shows no sign of such a catastrophic collision. Its orbit is one of the most circular of all planets. Only Venus, Earth and Neptune have orbits that are more circular. A collision would have been more likely resulted in an elliptical orbit. Also, Uranus's orbit lies more closely within the elliptic plane than any other planet except Earth. A massive collision should have disturbed the planet's orbit more than this. This idea of a catastrophic impact implies more than a little hypocrisy amongst the evolutionists. Christians are mocked by evolutionists for accepting the biblical account of a global flood, an event for which there is abundant physical evidence, because it was a one-time catastrophe. We are told that such catastrophes are unrepeatable and are therefore so-called unscientific. Yet here we see that evolutionists are allowed to invoke one-off planetary catastrophes with impunity to overcome problems within their belief system. And what about planetary rings? Everyone has seen pictures of the planet Saturn and its beautiful rings. Well, it is now known that many of our solar system's outer planets have rings as well. However, these rings are another problem for these astronomers who think that the universe is billions of years old. You see, the rings which encircle the outer planets would not be around today if the universe is really billions of years old. Recent studies of the rings of Uranus highlight the problem of why these rings are still around today. One theory says the rings are kept in shape and in orbit by small satellites circling the planet near one set of rings. The problem is that there are 9 other rings around the planet that are not associated with satellites. Astronomers, via the Voyager 2 photographic images, have also found 50 to 100 tenuous dust bands around the planet. These dust bands would disappear even more rapidly than rings. One astronomer has suggested perhaps these bands are replenished with dust when tiny grains of dust collide with invisible moons around the planet. Science usually doesn't have room for invisible moons and unseen causes. It is unfortunate that when the only alternative is to admit that the Bible is right about the creation being relatively young, some scientists are so biased that they must invent invisible moons and mysterious causes. Christians should welcome the flow of new discoveries in space, which, stripped of their evolutionary assumptions, continually highlight the incredible greatness and creativity of our God and the wonders of his universe. And we conclude with Psalm 19:1. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Thank you for listening.